Hello, good morning from a little bit overcast day here in the Philippines. Um, Today's subject is something that has come up regularly from those that are watching and leave comments, and that is that predominantly the most important thing about when you come to the Philippines, or certainly before you come to the Philippines, you have to seriously consider whether you're well enough to come here. And when I say well enough, I mean many of us, older generation, have maybe some underlying health issues that can be handled um, by oneself with careful diet and uh, minor medication. But when you come here or you decide to come here, especially if you intend to sell up everything, especially in America, and I say especially because that's the majority of those that do come here are from America. Um, Consider that if you're heavily overweight, maybe a good idea while you're in the US to get on some sort of a program to reduce that weight because, as you know, Filipino ladies are very uh, petite. And you can imagine, it's really not to be vulgar, but the reality is on top or underneath. And I think um, you have to consider the Filipina. Uh, she's going to become, she's going to become more than likely your full-time carer, and therefore, in your older age, you need to be aware that you don't put too much pressure upon somebody who's uh, essentially your live-in lover. Maybe you will call her your wife, or she may well be your wife. But the reality is that she's going to be caring for you, hopefully, through the years before you die. And to put that burden upon her, not only physically having to look after you, but also having to um, venture through the minefield of medical issues that you may bring here to the Philippines. It's all very well to dream of having a beautiful Asian wife, one you can, so small you can put them in your suitcase and take them home. But they're always going to be here, and you can chat to them online, you can have a pen pal sort of relationship, but many of you guys do come here and with the intention of retiring, and it is a great place to retire, even though a lot of you uh, are here for a period of time and then just decide you can't deal with many of the issues that come with living in a third world environment. Um, there are many things that I look at through my eyes and see, wow, they're so advanced. But the infrastructure in general is pretty poor, and certainly the internet is something to be desired, a better system. But you really need to get a reality check, and that is that if you are poorly and you're just looking, searching that dream, chasing the dream, sadly you may be better off in your own country because the medical system over there in your home country is going to be a lot easier to obtain and maybe better as a provider, especially with Americans and vet affairs and all of the different things that you can avail yourself of. But clearly the number one here in the Philippines is medical. And most hospitals it still will expect you to pay up front and maybe get reimbursed later on from your insurer. But unless you have that kind of money up front, um, you're going to find it very difficult and somewhat uh, taxing upon your budget. The second thing, of course, is that when you do come here, even for a holiday, you have to find affordable accommodation. And yes, it is cheaper than renting in the US or the UK or even in Australia and New Zealand. But the reality is, um, for how long can you keep paying that rent if you have health issues as well? You know, sometimes these things are overlooked by many, and it's two most important things is accommodation, uh, health is the number one, I believe, and of course the other thing is budget. It's no good just coming here and blowing all your savings. You have to have an ongoing monthly income source coming in. And what you might think you can do here working wise, many of the things that you think you can do, you're not allowed to. Um, you can't be in business unless you only have a very small shareholding. It has to be run by a Filipina. And do you know it's a Filipina that you can 110% trust? And don't say your wife. I'm talking about in business. Your wife probably has never been in business. So you need to be able to rely on somebody who you can trust. And that's going to be very hard coming from your home and expecting to just set up a big business, a successful one here, when the margins of profit are very, very low and the unit cost of each item is at the bottom end of the uh, supply chain. I mean, unless you have sufficient resources to buy or set up a business in a shopping mall and pay the shopping mall rents, you're unlikely to be able to afford to set up in business here in the Philippines. And of course, if you come on a tourist visa, which you can stay up to 3 years, you are prohibited from doing any kind of work, whether voluntary or otherwise, um, by the terms of your visa. So you really do have to think. And like I've always said, it's all down to planning. So number one, health. Number two, accommodation. Number three, budget. And I'm talking income source beyond your savings. So if you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and please subscribe. Costs us nothing to subscribe. And we'll catch you again. Bye now.